And Hollyoaks confirms tragedy in major week as an escape goes horribly wrong. So this is going to be a preview where it seems we will be at least escalating the, how do I say this in the first minute of a YouTube video, Frankie and Dylan and Vicky storyline where they've had to do unspeakable things for money. Cheers, YouTube. Let's go through this. So, I mean, I say this first and foremost, I don't really know why this is a thing, but now we're getting another big stunt week, and it's going to be a pretty big couple of weeks in Soap, because in EastEnders, there's a big car stunt, and in Corrie, there's been a big, parentage reveal and a big Craig storyline. So, it's really weird to now see that Hollyoaks will be following suit, and it's always funny how these sorts of things, translate, because it's not like this stuff is typically announced, immediately. So they just kind of through the grapevine go, oh, no, this is a big week, start competing. It's very bizarre. I do wonder how it works in the soap world. But yeah, let's read this article. Hollyoaks confirms tragedy and major week as escape goes horribly wrong. Hollyoaks is lining up an unmissable drama week as teens try to escape the manor. Lives are on the line and tragedy perhaps a certainty in a Hollyoaks week that will undoubtedly change the village forever as a plan to rescue the missing teens goes horribly wrong. Frankie Osborne and Dylan Ray's whereabouts are the subject of much concern after they vanished without a trace last week. Viewers will know that the pair are being held captive at Fernmere, with Vicky Grant, who was kidnapped by exploitation ringleader Grace Black, who is working for D.I. Banks. Darren and Nancy Osborne are worried sick about what's happened to Frankie, but with some help from Kat Omari, they start to piece together the puzzle. The couple's first port of call in locating missing Frankie is having a chat with Rex Gallagher. A subsequent text is received and it confirms the location they need in their quest. However, let's just say that the information falls into wrong hands when a certain police officer is trusted, which leads to D.I. Banks getting wind that Darren is on his way to Fernmere. In a bid to get out of Dodge before it's too late, the corrupt detective sets in motion an Operation Clear Out and resolves to flee with his wife and adopted daughter Tori. Little does he know, however, that Diane Hutchinson, Alex Fletcher, who overheard a chilling phone call between he and Grace last week, is hot on his tail and following him to the manor house. Will she be okay, or will Diane end up another casualty of this horrific criminal organization? Darren, meanwhile, arrives at Fernmere, where Kat leads him upstairs to the location of the hidden room, and the reality of Frankie's situation dawns on the horrified dad. Covering up his daughter, he vows that everything will be okay and that he will get her out of there, but the severity of the circumstances loom over them, making their chances of escape unlikely. Darren's not the only one who's on a rescue mission, with Rex, Dodger Savage, and Donnie Clark all determined to save their loved one. At Fernmere, Dylan, Vicky Grant, and Robbie Roscoe make one last ditch to escape as they secure their way out the basement, crossing past Darren and Frankie in the moment. The hopes of freedom are dashed when D.I. Banks' cronies arrive with a fight subsequently breaking out. Darren and Robbie enter protection mode as they fight back, and Darren's fate is up in the air as Dylan, Robbie, and Frankie are at mercy of the gang. But who will make it out alive, and is more tragedy set to strike? Grace's getaway. Knowing the walls are starting to collapse to the whole operation, Grace decides to get rid of any evidence that could implicate her, hoping Banks' contacts will take over. She even manages to convince Rex to tag along on her quest, but will her efforts prove successful, or is it curtains for Grace? The jury is still out, but Rex takes the opportunity to tell his sister what she is doing is wrong as she is continuing the cycle of abuse. Will Grace listen to what Rex has to say? That remains to be seen, but Rex will have something explained to do with Nancy wanting answers as she confronts Steve Hay over his boyfriend's actions. Out of options, Rex is forced to spill the beans to see about what he's been up to, begging his other half for forgiveness. God, this is one hell of a thing. What's Stephen Patterson? Tremendous article. Oh, Jesus. All right. Tragedy for Lucas. The scales will no doubt fall from Steve's eyes, but he has more pressing matters to deal with than Rex, as Lucas's brain surgery gets underway. At the beginning of the week, the scene suffers another seizure due to the procedure. Nonetheless, doctors have just decided to proceed with the operation. Later, as Steve and Leela anxiously await news, heartbreak ensues as they're told Lucas had an unexpected bleed on the brain during surgery. With high drama, emotional reunions, and an intense escape plan as the child exploitation storyline reaches a dramatic peak, it's a week of Hollyoaks not to be missed. And not to be missed is the right response. This is a huge story. It's a huge story to see a very big and interesting way to have this story come to a head. And I think if we do have this be an important thing, I would not be surprised if Diane dies in some way. And I've still been saying this for a while, but I do think there is a genuine potential chance that Grace is killed by Rex. I think there's a genuine chance to have that duality. Obviously not yet, because you're going to want to have Claire Devine and Grace and Rex all together. So you're probably not going to separate them that much. It's just, in the last moment, it's probably Grace will end up protecting them. And despite perpetuating this cycle of abuse, there is a chance that maybe she helps them and actually looks after them and like starts giving them a proper job. And then she moves away. She shuts down the operation, and she still does criminal stuff, but not stuff that's exploiting teenage. I don't know. I don't really know how this is going to end. But I do think that D.I. Banks is going to die. I wouldn't be surprised if Diane is at risk of dying. Because to be fair, after the time jump, it was kind of expected that she was going to die or leave. But ultimately, in this time, she has actually proven to be more than capable enough to stay. And she has earned her spot still on the show. So either way, I think it's a good thing that Diane is still here, especially with the Rose storyline. And just generally, she is working. It's just, you are going to need a new family for her to kind of be in, because she will always forever be connected with Tony, but she needs to be doing something else with her time. So it'll be interesting to see what they do there. It'll be interesting to see what happens with the Roscoes when Robbie is reunited with Freddie, and obviously Freddie is set to leave anyways. There's a lot of really interesting ramifications. The one thing I will say is I do think the teenage exploitation storyline, I think it has been good, and it has showed lengths of how deep it's gone. I don't think it's going to be able to replicate the Bethany Platt kind of iteration of this story, because that one was peak, and that one was genuinely really fantastic and a huge breakthrough storyline. And it wasn't, I made a video saying this may be one of the best soap stories in history, which was obviously clickbait, but I still kind of believed it. And I think they've kind of done a good job of it. They've just kind of muddied the waters quite a lot with characters who you have to have, but you don't really develop. And, everything's really weirdly interconnected to try and make it make sense. But there's been a lot of casualties in its development, like Dennis Savage being dead, and so many bits and details that have had to change and had to be introduced. It's just a hard one to kind of quantify. It's still been good, and it has been a breakout storyline for Dylan, who needed a breakthrough after his relationship with Lucas. It's always a thing where you establish someone's in a relationship, and it's are these characters then big because of the relationship, or do they stand on their own, even outside of the relationship? And I do think Dylan has been a made man, and he's made himself in this storyline. So they really have taken the kind of, and this is kind of not necessarily a classic Hollyoaks storyline, but it's been a very good one, though. I will say that much. I think they have done a good job of it. Especially because a lot of these characters are relatively new. So a lot of these characters you are still having to build from. And it has been a genuine breakout storyline. So yeah, a big stunt happening in Hollyoaks, exciting one, lives at risk, probably Diane, probably D.I. Banks, potential to be Grace. I think it's been pretty good, and I think it'll be a very nice payoff as we start to phase out of this teenage exploitation storyline. And I think fundamentally they've done a good job. Probably muddied the water a little bit, and it's been a little bit weirdly extended because, I don't know, you didn't have Dodger for a while, and now you do, and you introduced Tori, and now, like, there's so much, like, they've had to make a lot of changes at in a very short span of time, but fundamentally, I think they've done quite a good job. So yeah, looking forward to the stunt week. This takes place next week, so look forward to that on Hollyoaks. Thanks for watching. I've been Ash from Watching Walford. See you next time. Bye bye.